So we're going to start the presentation, sadly, without a data projection. So it's a great honor for me to be invited to give a plenary presentation at the University of Calmar. I do always appreciate being given the opportunity by Professor Hamid to discuss and talk about the research I do, whether in computer vision or other related area of computer science. I'm Ahmed Bouchrika, Professor of Computer Vision at the University of Surrey Haras. So the title of my presentation is about automating visual surveillance using computer vision methods, but the main sections of my presentation is going to address two main aspects. The first aspect is the use of automated methods for visual surveillance. The second part is webometrics, which is a new research area and interesting to everyone, which is about measuring and quantifying the impact of research contribution within the research area of computer science. Right now, the use of surveillance technology has become a major concern for governments, research institutions, and security agencies. This is mainly for the sake to provide secure and safe environment for their citizens, as well as to protect their assets from further terrorist attacks and from criminal activities. In fact, the Ministry of Defense in Algeria and the Interior have started deploying CCTV cameras and surveillance everywhere for the sake of security and, of course, to see what we are doing. However, there are a number of facts, there are a number of issues that we need to be aware of. For the UK alone, there are over 5 million CCTV cameras, and everywhere the deployment of CCTV camera is increasing enormously. But the question that we can ask, given the large number of cameras, do a specific country or an agency have the resources and manpower to recruit security agents to see what's going on from those security cameras at real time? So a lot of cameras, can we recruit security agents to see what's going on? The answer, of course, it's not possible. The other issue is the footage that we record from security camera is of low resolution. The quality is always bad. So if you want to apply any state-of-the-art, even state-of-the-art algorithm to detect the identity, it's not possible because most of the recent methods, they require good images with high resolution. And another point for the deployment of CCTV systems, it's not possible to detect the identity of most criminals. Because right now, suspects or criminals that are not stupid enough to show their face in front of a security camera. And lastly, there are many cameras. We record every day terabyte of data. If you want to do a forensic investigation, we want to search for a crime scene, we want to search for a person, from those footage, it is impossible. And here, we bring the issue of smart visual surveillance, defined as the use of primarily computer vision methods combined with machine learning and artificial intelligence in order to analyze and to understand the scenes being recorded by surveillance technology. Surveillance technology right now in Algeria is about recording and storing. It's not about automated analysis and interpretation of what's going on or what's being recorded. Right now, it's only storing. So smart surveillance is about creating automated methods using computer vision primarily and data mining algorithms to come up with semantic descriptions of what's going on. So the research area I've been doing for the area or for the global context of visual surveillance are 4 main subject areas that I've been working on recently at the University of Conférence. The first one is gait biometrics. The second topic is re-identification. Thirdly is forensic analysis. And lastly is the automated detection of human activity recognition. So I'm going to go through the 4 aspects of research, one by one. For the first one, which is biometrics, and it's used in automated visual surveillance. So biometrics basically is the process by which we acquire a unique identifier for a person in order to recognize him. So biometrics, basically, okay, that's good. So I'm going to switch on my, instead of sitting or trying to. Ah? So back to biometrics. So basically, the biometric is the process by which we acquire the unique characteristics from a person in order to recognize him. This description shouldn't be something like a password or a PIN number or something you carry on with you like a passport or a key. It should be something embedded within you, something that you possess and it's within you. The biometric also signature are suggested Anil Jain, who is the father of biometrics, and he is also one of the top scientists in computer science, emphasized that the gait biometric should be measurable. It means we can quantify it using any sensor. It should be also universal in a way that we can record this biometric signature from any person on Earth. It should be also unique. The uniqueness condition implies that no 2 people should have the same signature. And the last condition said by Anil Jain that the biometric signature should be permanent. The permanentness here, it means that it should stay forever, regardless how old you are, or regardless how many years have passed from capturing the biometric signature. So we can classify. Okay. Just to give a reminder of what I'm going to talk about, so the first aspect of my presentation is about the automated method for visual surveillance, going through 4 different research areas that I'm doing. The first one is gait biometrics, the second one is re-identification in visual surveillance, then I'm going to speak about forensic analysis, and lastly, the automated detection of human activity in surveillance scenarios. The second research topic, which is webometrics. This is very interesting research area in Algeria. And webometrics is about measuring, quantifying the impact of research contribution, but here I'm specifically talking about computer science. So there are 2 types of biometrics. The first one is a physiological, which is something related to the aspect of your human body. We can see the iris, the fingerprint, or even the ear, the face, DNA. And the other type is the behavioral biometrics. It's not related to the organ of the human body, but rather to the behavior, like the voice or the gait here, or keystroke, and even the signature. For the history of biometrics, it dates back to the 14th century. So in Persia, which is Iran today, they used to have a fingerprint printed on official papers. But here it's not for a reason, for a biometric reason, just to add credibility to the documents with the fingerprint. And then in 1858, there was a procedure to put the palm print on a contract. Again, that's not for a biometric reason, it's only to add a credibility to the documents. However, the first scientific evidence that we can use something to recognize people was in 1863 by Professor Paul-Jean Collier from Val-de-Grâce Hospital in Paris. He said that, well, he referred to the scientific here, that's the scientific evidence that the fingerprints are unique, provided we use a magnifying glass to differentiate between people. In 1870, Bertillon was the first person to use biometrics for forensic analysis. He was a police officer, he wasn't a scientist. He said that we can use the anthropometric measurements of the human body or the distances of the different parts of the human body to distinguish between people and to find suspects. For biometrics, basically, it can work in two modes. Either identification, which we sometimes refer as classification. Within the classification is to say who you are. So I acquire a biometric signature and then I do some classification process, and from this I can predict your identity. The other process to use biometrics is a verification process. So here you claim that you are someone, then I take or I bring the biometric signature of the claimed identity, and then I say whether you are who you are or not. That's a one-to-one match for the verification process. The identification is one-to-many. So that's basically for the classification. Always with biometrics, you measure a distance of a given instance or a test instance or unseen data against a gallery data set. You come up with the smallest distance and then you predict the class or the identity of the unseen data. That's of course if you do a lazy classification. Of course if you do SVM or deep learning, then you create a model. But for people in the image processing community, they usually prefer the lazy classification, because the main aim within the image processing group is to extract the features, not to use the latest or more advanced or more complex machine learning method. For the verification, the main point is to come up with a threshold or a criterion rule to say whether two instances belong to the same class. Again, which one is more difficult or complex? Is it verification or classification? Most people say, well, classification is more complex. No. Verification is the most complex and more challenging to say, yes, they are the same class, or no, they are different from class. We've been working on the classification for years. It's easy. The different one, the most difficult one is to come up with the yes, no answer, which is verification. So that's a simple diagram for a biometric system. Usually we start with the extraction procedure from a biometric sensor, then we do some pre-processing to the data, and then we do extract the features. Then we do either the enrollment process where we store the features with the identity of the person in a database, and then if we do the verification or classification for an unseen data, then we measure, of course, we will extract the features and do the matching process against the gallery dataset. That's just some motivations to the area of biometrics. But most people, when we say biometrics, we refer to the face, fingerprint, but that's traditional biometrics. Traditional biometrics, they don't work in surveillance scenario. يعني البيومتري تراديسيونيل ولا كلاسيك لي زومبرانت ولا الوجه ما يمشوش في السيستم دو سيل ما يقدروش يمشوا because criminals they will not go and say here is my fingerprint, here is my face. So we came to use gait. It means the way we walk, يعني الطريقة تاع المشي. Of course, to work on gait, you need to understand the different phases or the different aspects of the gait cycle. Now, the concept of using gait to identify people, is it new? No, it's not new. If we look to the old literature, for instance, by Shakespeare in 1564, we find the following sentence: highest queen of state, great Gino comes, I know her by her gait. So this is a clear indication that recognizing people by the way they walk is a very old concept. And even here in Algeria or in other countries, when we see someone walking from a distance, we can say, hey, he must be Ahmed or he must be Ali, because that's the way he walks. And even we say. But, so the concept of gait biometry, recognizing people by gait is not new. But from the scientific point of view, even from the medical society in the 70s, they conducted experiments to come up with a scientific conclusion that we can recognize people by the way they walk. So Murray and Keating, they use moving light displays. Basically what they do, they switch off the lights, they put light bulbs on the joints, and then they ask an actor or a performer to walk and perform some activities. From their experiments, they have concluded that using only the dynamic motion from the light bulbs, we can recognize the activity. We can always also differentiate between the different gender, either male or female. And lastly, from the joints movements, we can even recognize the identity of the person. And this work, the scientific work, was published in 1977, so that's about 40 years old. And the question we ask, what are we doing here as a computer scientist? The gait biometrics is not a new concept. There are rigorous work from the medical and psychological community affirming that we can recognize people by their gait. So basically, as a computer scientist, we are trying to come up with automated methods to extract gait features in order to devise a totally automated biometric systems to work in visual surveillance application. So why gait? Because gait is not intrusive. We don't need the person to come up to the biometric sensor and tell you, here is my biometric signature. So you can work without the need of the person to cooperate with the system. Another merit or another advantage of gait, it can work at a distance. You don't need to face the camera or open your eyes to extract the iris features. So using only a simple CCTV camera, we can extract the gait pattern. Another one, it is hard to conceal. Even if you wear qamis or an Indian clothing, we can still extract the gait features. And even if you are a movie fan and watch action movies or science fiction, there used to be a scene in the latest movie of Mission Impossible by Tom Cruise saying, if you try to remember, there was a place where we authenticate access through gait biometrics. يعني في الفيلم الأخير بتاع واحد مش يقدر يدخل لازم يشوف المشين. But the good thing is that's not science fiction anymore. يعني هذه science نشوفها science fiction. There are a number of companies creating products for authentication using gait. However, there are challenges as any other research field related either to the environmental condition, the position of the camera, that's what we call a viewpoint invariance, crowded scenes, and covariate factors. People wear clothing, they carry on bags, they wear different shoes, and so on. So we can classify the different methods for gait biometrics into two major categories. And a model-based. With a model base, we have a predefined model or template. The model can be temporal, can be spatial, that we can guide as to extract the features, and there is another category which is called appearance-based. Basically, appearance-based, you don't have any model, you just extract features blindly and then pass it to the classifier to do the classification. So for our research contribution in the area of gate biometrics for visual surveillance, we came up with a different method. We proposed an elliptic Fourier descriptor as a model-based method to extract features. Then we developed a hard-based template matching algorithm, and then we applied even a view invariant gate biometrics. And recently we proposed one is an appearance-based optical flow descriptor and a model-based. For the elliptic Fourier descriptor, basically just a mathematical formula to modularize shapes or close shapes here. There are a number of parameters that control the shape, and that's the mathematical equations. The main drawback of this modeling technique is the number of parameters. 5 parameters is too much and requires a lot of computational resources. So that's basically the simple steps. We, given a set of frames, we extract the corner using the Harris corner detector, then we extract the heel strikes of the person, and then we do 2 searches. Our first one is a global and the other one is a local search. We apply this extraction procedure on different data sets, including an indoor data set, an outdoor data set, and a complex case involving a lady wearing an Indian clothing, and the results really gave a promising data. Of course, after having the extraction, we've done a classification using a feature selection procedure. We compared at that time our proposed method against some methods on that time, but the database here was a bit small. It consists of 20 subjects. We got a promising results, and the work has been published and is cited now over 100. For the second approach, so we came up with a hard-like template matching algorithm to extract the lower section of the leg. But that's the equation to come up with a score that represents the exact position of the leg. The matching was applied on the contour data. However, the search is always guided by modeling data obtained from the medical data. The algorithm was tested on real surveillance footage obtained from Gatwick Airport and provided by the UK Home Office. The previous methods I was talking about was limited to the sagittal view, meaning the person is walking normal to the camera. However, if you want to work on surveillance scenario, we're not in a position to ask people, hey, you need to walk front to the camera. We are a bit limited, so we've used the work of my colleague Nicholas Spencer, who has proposed that we can rectify any data from any viewpoint back into the sagittal viewpoint. So we have the data here, and we have a number of assumptions, and we do a rectification procedure so that we translate back the data from any viewpoint back to the sagittal view. So we did the experiment here. We've collected a larger data set from the CASIA provided by the Chinese Institute of Automation for different viewpoints. We did the classification here using the previous method that we had proposed. We've obtained a very poor and low recognition rate of 32%. So we combined our procedure with the work of the rectification algorithm, and the recognition rate went up to 73%. I know it's still not that acceptable, but at least there is some improvement. So the work was published on a transaction and was cited for over 180 times. So the recent work we've been proposing, or we've published on gate biometrics for surveillance, is to use an appearance space. Appearance space is the easiest way to work on data. You don't need to have any model or do any advanced strategies to extract features. Basically, we use to optical flow. Given two frames, extract them, find the difference of motion, and then do any classification you want. So, using optical flow, we came up with two descriptors. One is one is a local one. So we take only the regions where the person is enclosed, and then we took a global one which reflects the spatial geometric properties. So this work was tested on a large data set containing over 1,000 video sequences. We obtained a high recognition rate of 97.8 recognition. Now, if you ask me which one would you prefer, a model-based or an appearance-based, I would always refer to the model-based. Even though the recognition or the classification rate is low, I would always prefer. And just this year, we went back to propose another model-based. There is a big tendency now to use deep learning for different area of research within the computer vision. So we extracted the skeleton of the person using a deep learning approach, and from the skeleton we extracted the lower inner region enclosed between the legs. And those regions from only 7 frames, not 25 frames, only 7 frames, we constructed a gate signature that gave us a recognition rate of 95% on a large data set. So that's it for gate biometrics. Another area of research, so I'm going to go briefly on it, without going through details, is re-identification. Re-identification is not biometrics, but rather the use of biometrics not to identify, but to come up with an identity to track people between different cameras. It's not to recognize the person, but rather to come up with a next identity, and this identity would be tracked from camera to camera, so that we infer the flow of movements of a given identity across different cameras. However, there are a lot of concerns and problems that exacerbate the detection or the implementation of a re-identification procedure, including the variation of appearances, crowded scenes, occlusion, low frame rate or different frame rate between different cameras, the articulation nature, and the large number of distributed cameras. We can really identify people using low-level features like the colors, even basic shapes, or we can use gate features or soft label biometrics. For our work, what we have done, we've used the HAR-like template matching, and we have applied this one on a real surveillance data from Gatwick Airport. We collected a small data set of 20 people. We don't need to know the identity of people here. That's really identification. Detect or track the identity of people across different cameras, and we have an average tracking or recognition rate of 92%. The other area of research is forensic analysis. Forensic analysis is about police investigation to examine existing data in order to find more evidence about the crime scene. And the use of biometrics tools here is either to corroborate or exonerate a suspect from a crime scene. So we came up with instantaneous pose matching. Given two video sequences, we compare two sequences of frames based on a predefined size of frames, and then we come up with a score whether those two persons are the same or not the same. So that's the equation, and then we come up with a score. For instance, that's the equation, and after doing the analysis of the matching, we come up with a score of D equals 0.02. But if you are a forensic expert, if you are a lawyer, or if you are a judge, that's totally a different story. If you are a computer scientist, you can believe in numbers, you understand those numbers. But if you are a lawyer, no. What does it mean 0.02? It has no meaning if you are a lawyer. And forensic is not about computer scientists, it's about law, it's about court, it's about a judge giving a verdict about a crime scene. So we come up with a scalability analysis comparing the intra-class and inter-class matching process, and which was applied on a large data set. And from this analysis, a non-expert would understand what does it mean 0.02, for instance. And here we come up with this threshold that I have referred to the verification process. That's my threshold. Any number below this threshold, it means yes, the two video sequences belong to the same identity. If it is above, then there is a doubt. So the work that we've done on forensics was published on the Journal of Forensic Science. But the question is our research on forensic was limited to publishing papers, just to laboratory settings? The question is no. We've taken our research on forensic to real cases. We've worked with the police department in London on a real case where they gave us 2 videos and said, provide us with an expert statement whether those 2 people are the same. Then we worked on another case with the Australian police in 2014, which was a murder case, and we gave a statement. I do remember in that statement that I have written, there was a strong evidence that the suspect was the murderer, and eventually, from further investigation, he was the murderer and he was given a 20 years jail sentence. Another case that I have worked on just this year was with the Swedish police to investigate whether the suspect was the true criminal or not. And the research work we've been doing has been featured on many major news companies, including BBC, ABC, and Discovery Channel, and other media. The other part is, which is automation methods for surveillance, is the detection of human activity recognition. So we've worked on a variance-based and saying we have a descriptor. Why not to use it on detecting basic human activity? And we came up with a simple, really, algorithm, and we've got good and promising results to detect basic actions for surveillance technologies. So that's it for the first part of the presentation, is automated methods in computer vision for smart and visual surveillance. The other research area that I've started working on for 6 years now is webometrics, which is measuring research impact on computer science. So basically we've set up this framework or platform which is Guide to Research, which is basically an online portal dedicated for computer scientists. It has many sections, the list of upcoming index conferences, the top conferences, the list of over 5,000 scientists, and the list of upcoming journals and top journals. So basically it's a startup research project maintained by colleagues from the same university where I work. It has received over 1 million visitors, academic visitors in 2019, and it is on #1 position in Google when you search for conferences or journals. And we do receive feedback from leading scientists, including Benju, who has been awarded Alan Turing recently, from Sebastian Thrun, who was the Vice President of Google, and from Buya, so he's #1 in Austria. And the bad news, Clarivate, you know Clarivate, Thomson Reuters, they are trying to close the website because we've stole some traffic when you search for impact factor. We took some traffic, so they said, you need to close the website or remove the impact factor. We've been in a legal argument with them, but we have survived their effort. So this is basically some screenshots of the website. And the research project has been featured on many leading and well-established research institutions. And whenever we release the ranking of top scientists or journals, many of the highly respected universities put us on their front page, including, of course, MIT, Stanford, CMU, in Santa Cruz, and so on. What we are doing on the research aspect of this project, we're about to release a data set, a bibliometric data set that includes many indicators of scientists. The indicators including H-index, number of citations, number of documents on DBLP, number of index documents within the ACM database, and we're going to release it totally free of charge to the research community so that they can analyze what are the impact of research institutions or research contributions, and they can also from this database explore what are the top conferences, what are the journals that have been targeted by leading scientists. Also, they can even conduct an exploratory analysis between the different indicators. Is a top H-index means a good scholar? Is having many citations? Does it mean that you deserve to be granted with an ACM award? And so on. Also, they can use this data set to have an insight on the recent trend of research in computer science. So we are also writing a paper to describe this data set that we're going to release publicly very soon. If you have any feedback on this project, you can also send it to us by email to info@guidetoresearch.com. I trust this is the end of my presentation. If you have any question or feedback, feel free to ask. And thank you so much for listening.